Welcome SAO survivors to Dead Game Report, my long-awaited monthly analysis of Sword Online Integral Factor and Variant Showdown's financial and popularity results. Don't be fooled by the title, it's just a pun on how wild the fanbase can be at times. To give you a little bit more of an overview, Integral Factor is once again coasting very much on average, as consistent as it gets, which also means the UE event story update also did not yield in a noticeable uptick in the graphs, whereas Variant Showdown is continuing its downward trend for the second month in a row, following the great half anniversary they had, kind of failing to maintain the wind on their sails. But let's not be hasty like the Twitter crowd and provide some context to those numbers. As always, the goal here is to simply inform you. Just like I want to inform you about the sponsor of this video. Honkai Star Rail is a space fantasy RPG by HoYoverse, the makers of Genshin Impact. And no better time to dive into this space adventure than now, as the highly anticipated version 1.2 arrived recently, launching you into the epic climax, where you'll be experiencing the finale of the story on the Xianzhou Luofu. Join now using my link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen and enjoy the game with more than 20 charming characters, each with their own vibrant personalities and backstories. Joining that cast are limited 5-star characters Blade and Kafka. Blade is a wind-type damage dealer. He's very much a risk and reward character. Taking damage with him increases the damage he deals to his enemies. He can also sacrifice his own HP to deal area damage in order to deal with crowds. Don't be fooled by his silent attire. The moment he switches his personality, he becomes the deadliest assassin you can ever come across, fueled by rage. Kafka, on the other hand, is elegant and beautiful, enigmatic, unpredictable, smiling at you with mystery. With her katana and SMG, she can quickly launch follow-up attacks. With her lightning damage ultimate, she can inflict enemies with shock, and her abilities and talent trigger damage over time via companions. Don't miss your chance to get these amazing limited characters and join Honkai Star Rail version 1.2 now to experience the climactic story, 2 new maps with new environments, limited time events, and bonuses, and even more. Play now using the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen. You can also use the codes on screen coinciding with Blade and Kafka for 50 Stellar Jade each. Enjoy, and thank you to Honkai Star Rail for sponsoring this video. From space, we come back to the virtual worlds of Sword Online. I know you're all more interested in the situation that's going on with Variant Showdown because it's filled with more potential drama to talk about, and that's exactly why I'll get to it shortly, right after Integral Factor. The truth is, there's more to talk about it when it comes to Variant Showdown, so taking care of Integral Factor is just easier. You know, I always put chapters and timestamps in the description anyway, so you can skip around if you want to. I mean, what can I even say regarding Integral Factor? The game is as stable as it gets, month after month, year after year. It's the exact same story. This is the popularity chart. Red line is this month, that is July, and blue line is June, last month. June was a bad month in general for mobile games in Japan. So, despite the red line being about 50 ranks below total, the estimated revenue ended up being higher in July than it was in June. My main issue with Integral Factor is that it's starting to feel a bit too formulaic at this point. We know exactly what we're getting. 1 pickup banner and 1 new banner each week. Mostly rerun events, rarely new ones once a month. Not necessarily an event, could be a floor story. New floor every month or two, which lately have always been quite disappointing when it comes to the contents of the story itself. Feels like the story is not progressing anywhere for a while now in the floor stories, which does actually show how important it is to have a solid foundation with your story in a way that has players hooked, no matter how lackluster the last couple chapters may have been. Integral Factor just feels a bit quote-unquote slow these days, but as things stand, I'm attributing that to the upcoming Steam port of the game. That's where the resources are probably going a bit more at the moment. I expect things to speed back up after the game is finally released on Steam, and the team can focus on content once again a little bit more reliably than they can right now. And surely the added exposure and revenue stream from Steam will of course help the game a lot as well. Just a little bit of a heads up though, the Steam revenue and popularity won't be reflected in these charts. This is just Apple App Store data from Japan, though I'll probably be able to pull interesting stuff from Steam charts when that happens. But the main thing I want to mention with Integral Factor is just how Integral Factor is just continuing in cruise control right now with reruns and an event here and there. And it's especially telling when we received the new UE story event just last week on July 26th, and the chart literally barely reacted to it. It's as if there was no event. It's in such cruise control that it's not even changing with a new event coming in. What it did was only push the game back into its average state. Well, the game is healthily cruising in a stable state. I think new content not achieving a large spike that pushes the game above average is... it's not alarming. I wouldn't say it's alarming, but definitely something to be looked at. A similar thing can be seen in last month's data, with the new story arriving on June 22nd and the charts barely reacting to it. I let it slide last month due to it generally being a bad month for the mobile market in Japan, but 2 months back to back the same issue, new content didn't increase interest in a meaningful way. Let's say it's an orange flag, if anything, something to look into and fix, because something is going wrong there. But yeah, Integral Factor, the game is as stable as it gets. I'm just hoping to see a bit more new content rather than constant reruns filling time once that Steam port is ready for launch. What's not as stable is, as we all know, Variant Showdown. Now, I'm interjecting myself here. This is me writing this paragraph after I have almost finished the entire script, because as I continued writing the script, everything kept steering towards a single topic, that being the PR efforts for Variant Showdown and the data mines that go along with it, since I see them as the hot topic problems at the moment that should get better to put the game back on track. Buckle up, because I do really want this game to turn things around. I'm not here to be preachy or approach with an I know it all, Bandai Namco, just listen to me on everything. No, that's not the attitude. If I learned anything in my bachelor's, my master's, with all my otherwise experience in professional life, it's that there are potentials and nobody really knows if something will pay off or not. You can just make estimates, what has the best chance to work out, what doesn't, and all that kind of stuff. You can prioritize, but you cannot exactly know what will definitely work or not. What I hope here, what the script slowly evolves into, is that I am just a voice, one that at least has education and experience on the topic, so I hope what I say can be seen as one of those potentials to be considered at some point. So, going back to the usual course of my script, okay, since this is the first Dead Game report, a bit of backstory is required on my relationship with Variant Showdown and how I kept interacting with it. I promise it won't be as long in future months. If you're following me on Twitter, which you absolutely should for the fastest news and short analysis tweets, last week I have grown particularly adamant in calling out the official Sword Online Variant Showdown accounts, both Japanese and the English ones, to make a developer Q&A like they did in the early days when the game was having a lot of troubles, as well as leading up to the health anniversary celebrations to share some future plans. The game had a very positive trajectory at that point once they started doing those, growing by about 15 to 20% each month. But after the half anniversary, they kinda did drop the ball quite hard. I'm pretty sure they too expected a drop after the half annie. After all, a celebration is kind of a big spike, and then it is understandable for it to slow down a bit in the following month. But this downward trend continued this month as well, which is what you can see in the chart here. Once more, red is this month, July, and blue is last month. And July has felt particularly empty when trying to play the game. That's not just reflected on the numbers, that's exactly how it felt in the game too. We had one event at the beginning of July, then 2 limited battles back to back, which are honestly just not good at retaining players from what we have seen historically. The main story hasn't been updated since a month and a half ago. Battle Royale seasons come and go, where players just literally prefer to go in solo rather than multiplayer, completely defeating the purpose of the mode. Actively backing out of matchmaking queues if they are match made with anyone, because it's just a better experience if you're fighting against bots. That's kind of the state the mode is in, rather than having to play with players using McDonald's Wi-Fi from the other side of the world. It's just simply a better experience solo. The game has, for the first time in a while, dropped below the rank 1000, if not actually for the first time. And the average rank this month for Variant Showdown was 715th, which is the lowest it has ever been for the game. And the revenue this month, it is matching the game's worst performing month at 26 million yen. From where I'm looking, the game is kind of ramping down its production, getting ready to shut down production. That's how it looks from a player perspective. Basically pushing out the remaining content that they had prepared more or less to completion. And I'm not the only one that is feeling this sentiment. Again, this is just a sentiment, this is not the reality. But aside from the butthurt Unleashed Blading fans who think their game died because Variant Showdown had to be released, when it's the exact opposite. Variant Showdown was rushed out of the door because their game was dying in its greed to milk the players. It was being kept up as a zombie. A lot of regular players just feel worried right now. That's what I'm trying to get at, not just the butthurt people. Nobody knows what to expect from Variant Showdown right now. It's a complete mystery, and that is a big problem. I said this on Twitter the other day, but the data miner for Sword Online Variant Showdown, who I'll keep secret as usual, did not mine the game this week. This happens every once in a while with Integral Factor 2, you know, they may be busy, there may have been underlying changes to the systems in game that require a fix to their mining workflow, that kind of stuff. But in the case of Integral Factor, even if the data mines don't come out immediately, even if they come out late, even if they don't come out that week at all, I can make my weekly news video on the game just fine when that weekly reset arrives. There's new events, new rewards, new banner announcements, at least a couple things posted in the notice board as new content for the week that I can present as news. That is simply not the case with Variant Showdown. The data mines for it, they are kind of weak to begin with and are for 2 upcoming weeks, not 1, but at least they allow me to make a video in the end. With this week not featuring any data mines, I had to skip making a news video altogether for the first time, because literally the only news on reset was new limited battle, new battle royale season. I can't make a video out of that, that's literally a single sentence news week. But yes, a new month is coming. In a couple of hours we'll have that monthly reset. By the time this video goes up, because I'm gonna be slow with the editing, a new Yuju unit with a Japanese outfit should be out, or at least is about to come, alongside a new battle pass with its own unit and ability card, probably, hopefully, a new story event, maybe some progression to that main story campaign that's been waiting for 1.5 months at this point. But you see, that is the exact problem that I keep highlighting since I started the Variant Showdown part of this video. The problem is that I don't know. We don't know. None of the players know. And I know companies are not fond of data mines, very much understandably so. They want to have full control over when their PR happens. I know because I was contacted by them when a Japanese SAO superfan account who had ties with the developers tried to pinpoint me as a target for the data mines, among others, when he himself was participating in data mining communities, constantly pestering the data miners for new content, as well as pestering them to teach him how to data mine. I really love those kinds of hypocrisies, you know? I know this for a fact because when I was contacted by, let's say, Bandai Namco, they specifically referred to the tweet that is painting me as a source for these mines, rather than the literal tweets I have posted with data mines. Like, that's a pretty obvious giveaway, okay? They could have easily shown me yo, you shared these data mines, please don't do that. No, they literally went to this person's tweet and told me, hey, we found this. This person says you're the source. Can you clarify? That was literally what I got a couple months ago. Anyways, that's a complete tangent. I'm not gonna get into the details of my conversation. It's not a topic of this video. What I'm trying to get to is, my education is in economics, and then I specialized in strategy and marketing, so it suffices to say I know a thing or two. I fully sympathize, I fully empathize with Bandai Namco, with the developers. These PR efforts do take a lot of time, they take a lot of planning, they take a lot of other resources, so it's a blow to have them data mined. And I won't get into the leaking argument. They too were quite understanding of the circumstances on that aspect, as it's a whole separate gradient and perspective. But the moment those developer streams stopped on SAO Beaters Cafe, the only source of information on the game kind of remained the data mines. And it should come as a shock to no one that the data mines continue to create a lot of positive buzz and positive interest around the game. Like, that part is undeniable. And following a month of very lacking content, when that data mine did not arrive either, I don't know, it just felt so sad for the game. Empty. Nothing was there. Until they revealed the Yu-Gi-Oh unit earlier this morning. You know, my tweet from a couple days ago asking for a developer Q&A to address the concerns about the future of the game, it literally remained on the latest tweets tab for the term Sword Online Variant Showdown, SAOVS, the abbreviation. Not even the Japanese players were talking about the game at that time. I tweeted those specifically at that time because historically that's always the time Sword Online Variant Showdown has its largest dip in a month, and their new limited battle and battle royale season, of course, did not change that pattern. And that is those sinking days at the end of the tail end of the month with that red line. You know, I will happily say I would love to contribute to the PR of your game, even in your terms, Bandai Namco, Takeuchi P, fellow trusty captain over there, others who know me in the Discord server or across the other ranks. Maybe I should return to the Discord in general, just have a chat in the Variant Showdown server. I even showed a lot of problem areas I personally perceive with the game, with potential solutions, and highlighted where they were doing a lot better lately back in my half anniversary review. Just for that reason, you know, I do love this game. I do want it to get better. I want more people interested in this game because I am interested in its story and its characters. But as things stand, I feel like I'm in that meme where the guy's trying to poke the other thing with a stick saying, come on, do something. Like, I can't believe it's me, of all people, who called out multiple Sword Online games for greedy power creep or gambling mechanics like memory defrag, unleash blading, I even called out Alicization Licorice and its cubes, and am here yelling for months now, Variant Showdown, be a bit more greedy. 4 new gacha units per month, 2 in the first 15 days, the other 2 in the second 15 days of the month. I just don't know, man. No Variant Showdown stream with Takeuchi P and Teria-chan since half anniversary. Without that early information coming from streams, Twitter accounts are just locked into sharing things half a day before they happen in-game. This leads to players having no idea about the future of the game, even in short term. And short term, I mean like a single day. We literally get the news half a day before they happen. And this unknown, it leads to more waning interest, especially since the game has a bi-weekly update cadence, unlike Integral Factor that is weekly. And the sad part is, Integral Factor data mines, Unleash Blading data mines before that, Memory Defrag data mines before that, they have always been a thing, but they were never a concern for developers because they already were communicating early enough with their player base regarding upcoming content and future plans. Whether they were communicating their plans fully or partially, that wasn't a point of concern. What matters was that they were communicating their future plans. And their weekly update cadence helped them in PR as well. People could data mine next week's content, but that was fine. Their stream would be about content coming in 2 or 3 weeks anyways, so the data mines didn't matter either. It was just free publicity and free interest for the game without anything negative affecting their PR plans because they were prepared for it. With the bi-weekly update cadence of Variant Showdown, it's not as easy. They need to reach further into the future into tentatively scheduled content, or they need to stop the data mines. They can never get ahead of the data mines. That's just the reality of the internet. Cut ahead, 2 more comes up. That's how the internet is. And I'm pretty sure they are very much aware of that. Funnily enough, as I was writing the script, a new data miner just popped up with upcoming events because the previous data miner just skipped the week entirely. You know, someone fills that void even if you take out one of them. It's just gonna happen. That's the way things are on the internet. But on the flip side, if they want to share future content, that bi-weekly update cadence, that requires them to reach further into the future, and that's tentatively scheduled content that is not fixed in place properly, so they cannot share that much into the future either, and that locks them in place. Like, as a developer, they likely don't want to promise content based on tentative plans. So with that, streams are off the table because they can't share so much into the future, likely fueled by the growing apathy towards the game as well. Well, that means you just shut down the PR significantly. So the apathy, it only grows larger because now you're not even speaking to them, and it's at that point it's a self-fulfilling loop. Well, what do you do when it's a self-fulfilling loop? You either at least put some effort into breaking the loop, or you have given up on your inevitable fate. And you see, the thing is, if you don't do anything that the public can see, what they will see from the outside is that you have decided for the latter. You have given up on your fate. And right now, I'm just gonna be very clear. I am not saying book the studio for those monthly streams. I'm not saying partner up with Minato Aqua again for a Variant Showdown campaign. I'm not gonna say, hey, pay me, I'll do whatever I can in my power. No. You know, jokes aside, I've been basically doing it for €1 a month anyways, despite it hurting my channel performance due to low interest. No, none of that. You don't even need to pay me. I'm not even asking to be paid. You have multiple Sword Online game Twitter accounts, including Teria-chan of Beater's Cafe. Just prepare some slides, PowerPoint slides. You always do them for streams. You don't need to spend an hour talking over them. Just prepare the slides and just share those slides as future plans on those channels. You can also share them on Beater's Cafe as community posts on YouTube. That's perfectly fine. Borderline free promotion right there with all those accounts you have. Have those Q&A things on socials with Takeuchi P to give an idea about future plans. Now, you got custom animations and custom dialogues, voice lines for the home screen and stage intros. Like, I mentioned this a long time ago in the Sword Online Variant Showdown server. I'll be perfectly honest, it is really baffling to me that it is I who is uploading this unique content in suboptimal conditions that I have, with all the banners blocking the visuals. You know, in reality, that it shouldn't be me who's uploading these, rather than simply someone logging into the dev environment, disabling the UI, recording these properly, and uploading them as shorts on Beater's Cafe channel in all their glory. Like, Sword Online, this is a series that shines with its characters. You are more than welcome to use them for your promotion. So why is it that it is me who's uploading them because you haven't uploaded them officially before for your own PR promotion? You know, I think back at Unleash Blading, and the best thing they did was uploading the finisher animations for individual characters on Beater's Cafe. That was absolutely perfect. Just do it, Variant Showdown. You have so much content to share, but why am I sharing it personally rather than your official account, who can do this much better than I can for barely any kind of effort? Okay, so I'll wrap it up here because it's getting really hot and I don't want to turn on the air conditioner for now. Whenever I talk about Variant Showdown, it just goes the same way. It's a game I really want to see succeed. It's a game I followed and engaged with and will continue to do so because I'm simply interested in it. I want to see more of these characters, I want to see more of this story, but it just had a terrible launch. We all know, you all know. That was rushed to capitalize on Unleash Blading's shutdown, and it was never given a proper chance to recover properly either. And where we reached now, it feels like, from our perspective looking from the outside, it feels like it's ramping down. I write this while keeping my eyes peeled for monthly reset in a couple hours due to a very ominously timed scout with the title of that scout that I saw in recent data mines. I really don't want a monthly series that I named this way as a joke to actually be the last monthly report before one of the two games announces its shutdown. That would be royally awkward. But just to give you a heads up, there are literally new skill categories, which is indicative of further development plans if it all comes to fruition. Like my main issue is the way they titled that scout specifically. That is very unfortunate naming over there. Anyways, every joke must have a leg in truth, I guess. I'm from Turkey, so that does make me a very cheap workforce opportunity, you know, with a lot of education and experience on the field. For things that I would be more than happy to do voluntarily, to be honest. So if there's anything I can do, I'm more than happy. Anyways, thank you very much to all of you for watching this very first Dead Game report, or ominously named, for an ominous situation. Hope you all enjoyed this one. Sorry if it's a bit longer than intended, solely due to the backstory and me again rambling about Variant Showdown, the context required as the first video in the series. Future ones won't be as long, hopefully, if I'm not too lazy to make them, and hopefully not because one of the games officially pulled the white flag. Until then, I'm looking forward to playing these more. Stay cool.